a piece of this. Look at that. Here we go. I'm just going to taste this. Okay. Oh, that's exactly right. Look at that. Now, I'm going to dip some of this in the hoisin and a little bit of sriracha.
I'm Joseph Brooks, and this is Lawyer in the Kitchen.
Welcome to Lawyer in the Kitchen. Today we're going to make one of my absolute all-time favorite dishes. This is going to be authentic, fantastic pho. I used to think this was pho, and I obviously got trained on that several years ago. This is a dish that I remember going out to a trial in Reno, Nevada about 7-8 years ago, and getting ready for trial. I went to this pho restaurant every single day for lunch and had a different variation, and it was fantastic. This is really an easy dish to cook, but to do it right, it takes a lot of time, and everything is about the broth. One thing's for sure, pho has, there's some controversy about where it began, but no question this is an absolute national Vietnamese noodle soup, and it's fantastic. Some people say there's some French influence because of the beef, because the Vietnamese didn't have beef very much in the beginning. It's a northern Vietnamese dish, but whatever the origins, it's clearly Vietnamese, number one. Number two, it's fantastic. Number three, different regions in Vietnam have their own, gotta have these ingredients. Today we're gonna start with the broth. I'm gonna finish this tomorrow. This broth is gonna cook for about 8 to 12 hours, and I'm gonna go on the 12-hour side of it. And we've got 3 different kinds of beef and bones here. We've got marrow bones that, very nice. As you can see, these have been cut. I got this in a butcher shop, actually in Jacksonville. I've got a beef shank with a lot of marrow on it, so it's got some meat for taste. And I've got a brisket that we're actually going to cook for about 3 hours in the broth, but then we're going to pull that out, put it in the fridge, and then we'll cut this thinly tomorrow when we actually serve this pho and have it all completely done. Now, what's in it? Mostly it's the beef and the bones. We're going to cut this ginger in half, and we're going to char it. We're going to cut these onions, and we're going to char those. We're going to put a little bit of salt, a little bit of brown sugar, some fish sauce, have to have that. So we actually went to a place I go to all the time called Lynn's Oriental Shop and got a couple of bags that have all of the aromatics in it. What you're looking for is a couple sticks of cinnamon, some black cardamom pods, 3 or 4 of those, some star anise, 3 to 5 of those, and then some coriander seeds, about 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of that. I wasn't sure I had enough of the star anise in this 1 pack, so I got 2 packs because I'm going to make sure I have enough. I'm going to roast those. I'm going to boil these bones. I'm going to parboil all this for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to rinse that. We're going to drain that, rinse the bones. Then we're going to put them in some cold water and start them off to a simmer. I'm going to brown this brisket on at least 2 sides before we put it in the pot, and then we'll put everything together. We're going to cook it for probably about 8 hours today, and then we'll finish off the last 4 hours tomorrow. So we're going to put all of the meat and the bones in the pot of water, and we're going to boil that for about 5 minutes. That'll take a couple minutes to bring up the temperature. That's fine. And then we're going to dump that completely off. And even rinse the meat after we're done in the bones. So we've got them completely covered. No salt, nothing else. This is just to start to get the impurities out. That's all we're doing right now. One of the things that's really interesting is that this bone broth and the way that we're cooking it over such a long period of time is going to bring out some of the enzymes and proteins that are actually good for your digestive system. They're good for inflammation. They're good for sleeping even. So maybe that's why you cook it 12 hours, because you can go to sleep. I don't know. Anyhow, it's a very good, healthful and nutritious stock to make. And of course, when we put the aromatics in, it's going to be very tasty, and it's going to have several layers of flavor. So these are the aromatics we're going to use. We're going to use cinnamon, cloves, star anise, probably about 5 or 6 cloves, 5 or 6 star anise, some peppercorns, that's about a half a tablespoon, some cardamom pods, we've got about 3 or 4 right there, and we have some fennel seed, and we have some cardamom. No, what is this called? Help me out. Coriander seed. That's about a tablespoon and a half of coriander seed, and that's some of the fennel seed is mixed in there with that. We're going to toast that, and then we're going to put it in a bag, and we'll tie it all up so that comes out nice, and we can also pull it all out after we check the flavors as we're cooking. All right, this is why you do this. This hasn't started boiling yet, but it's getting close. Look at all that scum and impurities and everything that's coming to the top. So we're going to get rid of all of that, and because the goal is clear broth. So we want to start getting rid of all this, and during the cooking process altogether. So it's going to start boiling, 5 minutes, and we'll rinse them. Okay, this is about 5 minutes. Come look at this. See? Look at all this stuff. And when we rinse the actual bones and the meat, we're also going to make sure that we clean this pot really well as well, so that we get a really good head start on getting these impurities out. It's been 5 minutes. It's time. Oh, that's heavy. I can't see anything. I mean, I can't see anything. So now we are going to take, look at that marrow sitting in that. Isn't that nice? Now, you do lose a little bit of the nutritional value. I think I said nutritional, that this is nutritional. It is nutritious and nutritional. We're going to put these bones and this beautiful piece of meat right there. This is a beef shank. This was actually labeled a dog bone, I think, in the store. No, it's this one. It doesn't have any marrow in it. And now we're going to leave the brisket here because we're going to brown that. This is going in the oven for 30 minutes, and we're going to mix it all up, and then we're going to put it in another 15 or 30 minutes. We're at 450 degrees. While we're waiting on the bones to get nice, deep, dark brown, and the meat, of course, we're going to go ahead and toast our aromatics. I've already got the stove on here. And we're going to put a char on these, actually. This is, we want to see a little black on there. All right. Okay, so while we've got the aromatics are toasting, we've got the bones in the oven, we're going to go ahead and cut these onions. These don't look bad. We're leaving all that. We're just going to cut them in half. And I decided to use 3 because these are not that big, and I can't see how that would possibly be bad. We're going to cut this ginger right down the middle. And then we're going to toast all this. We're going to char these. Keep the skins on. If these aren't real ratty on the roots, keep those too. Yeah, we're not there yet. Ah, that's good enough right there. I'm happy with that. All right, let's turn that off. We're going to put that in a little bag. We're going to tie this baby off. Now it's time, while I got the pan nice and hot, I'll put this back on. We're going to char this ginger and the onions. You could put those in the oven, but this will be better. Some people knock that off. They take the char off of it because it still has the flavor. I'm going to leave the char on it. The reason you would take it off is if you don't want the broth to be quite as dark. But I don't think in 5-6 quarts of liquid that's going to do too much to it. It took longer to get this char. That looks pretty good on the ginger. This one's not quite as much, but still fine. I did both sides just a little bit. I think that's plenty. We're going to let that sit. Now we're going to take advantage of this time that we're doing the baking to get the brisket browned. So it's been 30 minutes. I'm going to leave the bones alone, but I'm going to flip that shank over. The rest of them are fine. They're starting to darken up a little bit. The pan's pretty hot, as we now know. So we're going to brown. This has been in the oven for an hour at 450. We got about 2 pounds of marrow bones and about 2 pounds of meaty bone, that beef shank, and we got about a 3-pound brisket, and we're all ready to do it here. We're ready to put these babies in. This is nice and brown. Look at this thing. That beef shank looks great. That's cold water. That's about 5-6 quarts. We've got the brisket all browned up. Look at that. That looks nice. We'll get all that grease off of this. This is going to go in the fridge tonight. We're going to cook about 6-7 hours tonight and finish it off tomorrow. All right, it already has good color. All right, there goes the onions and the ginger. 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. About a tablespoon of salt. We're going to put our aromatics in. This is cold water, so this is easy to do. We're going to put in a little bit of vinegar, a couple of tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, because that'll help break down the proteins and it'll purify better. That's probably a little bit more. And about 3 tablespoons of fish sauce. And that is not a half a cup. Look how much is missing out of the bottle. And that's a half a cup. Okay. So our 6-hour tour for tonight starts now. We're not going to boil this, by the way. We're only going to simmer it. And we're going to simmer it with the top off. So we have to check it. We may have to add water. Expect to add water. You think I'm going to say all right?
All right.
I'm not going to say all right.
All right.
All right. So we've had this on for about an hour and a half. It's just starting to get some little, I'm not going to say, but there's just a little, we're starting to get this off the top. This is looking good now. This has cooked for 3 hours, and I've been pulling the residue, scum, whatever you want to call it, the impurities. I've been pulling those off every few minutes. And because it's at the 3-hour mark, we're going to pull this brisket out of here. And then we're going to cook probably another 4 hours tonight. Ah, that's done for sure. We'll let this cool, put it in the refrigerator after it cools down. We cooked this for about 6.5 hours yesterday. I put it in the refrigerator. I took the foam and some of the fat off the top. And so let's have a look and see what this looks like. There's not a whole lot of fat. I'm not going to take all of that off because we want to have some in there. And so I'm going to pull a little bit of this off. And then we're going to cook it about probably another 4 hours. That's it. I'm going to let that stay. We're going to have a little bit of that. Now, I did take I took the spices out, I took the onions out, and I took 1/2 of the ginger out. I may put some more spices in at the end because this seems to have lost some of the aroma. I'm not sure that it's not better. This is the first time I've cooked this long. And I think you lose potentially some of the aromatics if you cook it that long. So we may add them, we may add some fresh ones after this. So we've got this back on the stove. We're going to slowly bring this up to temperature. Again, not going to boil, just going to simmer this. Then in about an hour, I'm going to check the flavors and see what we're going to do. We're coming up on hour 9, and I'm going to cook this for about 10 hours because it's coming up on, it'll be 7 o'clock. That's a great time to eat. And it'll be within the guidelines, kind of, but 8 to 12 hours. This is 10, it's right in the middle. The flavor's there. I like it. It needs just a little more salt, so I'm going to add a little fish sauce, and then I'm going to check the salt again, and then, because we're going to see where that goes. I put these spices, the aromatics in at the very beginning, and a lot of people do that. I think when you cook it this long, you lose a little bit of it. So I put about half again as much in a pan, and I'm going to put that in for the last hour. So I'm going to cook that between 6 and 7. I'm going to put these in, and this is literally about half of what we put in there to begin with. I like a little more of that. It's fine. It would be absolutely fine, but I like just a little bit more. We're about 40 minutes from this pho broth from being done. I've cut up the brisket that I cooked last night. I pulled this out after about 3 hours. This is nice. This looks, I mean, look at these. These are nice. Look at those. Look how thinly. These are nice and thinly sliced. That's the brisket. And then, of course, the tenderloin that we're going to use, I put in the freezer for about 30 minutes. Which should hopefully make this a little easier to cut thinly. And yeah, they feel nice and firm. So I haven't decided how I'm going to do these yet, but this looks good. And we're not going to cook this at all. The broth is going to cook this so that when the broth goes on there, it's medium rare. We've got everything just about ready. We are 15 minutes from ready to strain the broth. So we're gonna start getting everything ready here. The horrible thing here is that my Thai basil, I put in the refrigerator yesterday out in the garage, and it essentially froze it. So that doesn't look good. I tasted it, it tastes fine, but it just doesn't have that green, beautiful look that it has. We're going to have plenty of scallions. And we got some Thai chilies. These are nice and hot. Just cut those like this. You don't want to cut them too thick because, you know, you want people to come back. And we want some really thin slices of onion. We have all of our accompaniments ready to go. I haven't done the soup yet, the broth. I'm waiting on that, but I got everything else ready to go. We've got the bean sprouts. We've got the brisket all trimmed up. We've got the tenderloin, nice thinly shaved. I've got culantro, C-U-L-A-N-T-R-O. That is a little stronger than cilantro, which is right here. And underneath this is my 1 leaf of Thai basil that's not frozen. I tasted it, it's still fine. It looks horrible. I'm gonna hide it with cilantro. I've got lime, I've got thinly shaved onions, I've got scallions, I've got Thai chili peppers, I've got blanched baby bachoi, and I've got the stems of the green onions. And I think that's it. Oh, we're going to have some sriracha. And I hope I'm saying this right, hoisin sauce or hoisin, anyhow, I think it's hoisin. Anyhow, sriracha and hoisin, we're gonna put those in a bowl, and you can dip anything you want to in there. I actually usually put this in the bowl myself. Anyhow, we're about ready to do this. I gotta say this is a lot of work.
Yeah, you're telling me.
I mean, it's not, there's nothing about it that's hard. It's just following steps. It's easy to make. Okay, you just got to be true to the the instructions and don't cheat. But I will tell you this: it is time consuming. We're going to pull these bones out now, and here comes the beef shank roast. Which, by the way, you can still eat this thing. There's still look at that meat. That meat is fantastic. There's that one piece of ginger I left in there. All right, I got all the bones out. All right, so we'll move this out of the way. All right, Thank you. It's like you've seen me do this before. All right, here we go. This is a funnel strainer. This is round one. And I gotta tell you, that's not too bad.
I'm pleasantly surprised.
This is, turn that handle away just a little bit. Thank you, ma'am. I'm just gonna take my time. I think this is probably worth it because I see some residue in there. I gotta tell you, if you're gonna spend this much time making broth, you want it to be right. We're gonna get the view in the bowl, of course. This has got a lot of color to it, but it's clear. I'm pretty happy with that. And I tell you what, the smell is fantastic. Everything is ready except for the noodles. These are rice noodles. These are about 2 millimeter or size small. We're just gonna blanch these essentially for 20, 30 seconds and then put them in the strainer, and then they'll cook a little bit more in the broth. And I'm just using the water that I used to blanch the baby bok choy in, which is just fine. Now, we want to rinse these with some hot water because we don't want them clouding up the broth. So I gotta get my hot water running while I'm waiting for that to happen. All right. This is taking forever, but I think it's gonna be absolutely worth it. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right, so let's get our bowl. Is this bowl not perfect? I mean, come on. All right, so first thing, some noodles. And I can hear them, so they sound like they're still a little on the al dente side, which is fine because the broth's going in, it's gonna be nice and hot. All right, next, we're gonna put our brisket in. Look at that, isn't that nice? It's nice, here's a nice piece right there. And here's our tenderloin. This is gonna be medium rare by the time we finish this. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? Here we go, here's a nice piece. All right, that's plenty of meat. Now let's put our broth in. It's gonna cook this tenderloin. And I'm hoping this looks nice and clear. This is pretty beefy and brothy. That is warm. Look at that. The meat is cooking right there. Look at that. How's that look? All right, we got 10 days on the broth. 10 days.
It felt like 10 days.
I swear to God, I think that's why I came. It has total parapraxia. Anyhow, you know what? I can't wait for, one of the groups I belong to is Vietnamese party and drinking. No, Vietnamese drinking and party food. I'll get it right. Vietnamese drinking and party food. They're the funniest people. They are great. And this is my first attempt at cooking something that's really Vietnamese. And besides the corn chowder soup or whatever it was. And look at this. I think we're going to taste this. I'm going to pull a piece of this. Look at that. Here we go. I'm just going to taste this. Okay. Oh, that's exactly right. Look at that. Now, I'm going to dip some of this in the hoisin and a little bit of sriracha. Let's get some of that broth. Look at that broth. You know what? I wish it was a little more clearer. I don't know. Can't speak English. But, that's right. That is so right. That's super good. Hey, listen, if you liked this video, enjoyed it at all, subscribe and like. I appreciate that. And I'll see you next time on Lawyer in the Kitchen.